Today we are going to go through each of the embroidery stitches used on this swatch. These can then be taken on to design your own pieces, like this one that I've done earlier. Any Stranger Things fans will get this reference. To begin, you will need some fabric and an embroidery hoop, an embroidery needle, some scissors, and a selection of embroidery threads. Let's get started. To do a simple running stitch, come up from the back of your fabric and then go down through the front. When coming back up, try to keep a gap the same distance as your stitch. Continue this along for as long as you need. Start with a simple stitch. On the second stitch, put your needle up through the back of the fabric where your second stitch would normally end. Go back down through the front of the fabric at the end of your first stitch. This stitch is particularly good for continuous lines, for delicate outlines or for writing. Come up through the back of the fabric, go back down through the front, leaving a gap in between. Before pulling tightly, catch the loose thread with your needle on the way back up through the fabric. You want to come back up underneath and in the middle. Pull tightly to catch the loose thread and put your needle to the back to secure it in place. Try layering up different rows of it. It'll create a nice wave effect. Come up through the back of the fabric and on the way back down, place your needle as if you're making a diagonal line. Leave the thread loose and on the way back up, catch that thread. Continue by making another diagonal stitch and catch it again for as long as you need along the same line. This can be used at the edge of your fabric as a decorative trim. This is a really easy stitch where you're just overlapping singular stitches. You can do them spaced apart, or if you do them closer together you can create a sort of cluster that resembles the popular cross stitch look. Try overlapping more than 2 stitches to create something that will look like a wee star as well. To start, come up from the back of the fabric to create a single stitch. Then come up at the back of the fabric, leaving a gap between the stitch before it. Take your needle under the stitch before and go back down the same hole you just came up from. Continue along, always using your last stitch to catch your current stitch. This, like its name, creates a chain-like appearance that gives good dimension to your piece. Satin stitch is basically a bunch of regular stitches that are placed together to create a block of colour. You want your stitches to be as close together as possible. It makes a dense appearance that is best used for filling areas with colour or for bold lettering. It's quite time consuming and I really wish I could sew it as fast as in this video, but it's definitely worth the effort. For French knots, come up through the back of the fabric and twist your embroidery thread around your needle. The size of your French knot depends on how many times you twist the thread around the needle. Holding your working thread taut with your non-dominant hand, place your needle back down through the fabric and pull slowly. This will create a knot which sits in your fabric and it's great for adding texture. It's a little bit tricky at first, but it does become easier. Come up through your fabric and back down at a diagonal angle. Leave your thread loose and come back up with your needle to create a triangle of needle holes. On the way back down, catch the loose thread and take it back down to create a Y shape. For the first part of a woven wheel, you want to create a star of stitches, which will then be the threads that you will weave on in the second part. I've done 5 stitches, however you can do more or less as long as it's on an odd number of stitches to weave through, for example 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. Now you want to weave your thread through the wheel, picking up every second stitch so that it goes under, over and so on. Keep pushing your thread towards the centre of the wheel, keeping the weaving nice and tight. This will create a 3-dimensional rose-like appearance, perfect for adding to any floral embroidery that you might be doing. Create a stitch as you normally would, but leave the thread loose. Come up through the top stitch and leave your needle in the fabric. Wrap your thread around the needle and keep the working thread taut with your non-dominant hand. Gently pull the needle through until it creates a 3-dimensional knot sitting on top of your fabric. Pull the needle to the back using the bottom hole. Repeat for as many as you would like. Create a stitch as normal, and on the way back up, come through the existing stitch at the halfway mark. You want to split the threads, so try to come through the middle of the threads. This creates a lovely textured row of stitching, and it can be used for outlines. Come up from the back of your fabric and place a thicker material on your fabric. I've chosen a few strands of wool. Go back down with your needle on the other side of your chosen material and pull tightly to secure it in place. Repeat this stitch until all of your material has been secured to the fabric. For the first step of woven backstitch, create a line of running stitch like shown before. Choose another material to weave through the existing running stitches until you create a wave. Once finished, pull the wave through to the back of the fabric. Come up and go back down with your needle through the same hole on your fabric, leaving the thread at the front loose. Come back up from the back, lower than your initial hole, and catch the loose thread. Stitch it down to create a leaf or seed-like appearance. Repeat for as many as you would like. Create a stitch as you would normally, but keep the thread at the front loose. Come back up midway between the stitch and pull tightly. Repeat this all along the line. This is a really nice way of creating textured outlines. Backstitch trellis is used to fill in areas that don't need block colour. It's simply overlapping vertical and horizontal lines of backstitch. You can also do diagonal lines of backstitch to give a more authentic trellis look. For picket stitch, you will need a ball top needle. Pull your embroidery needle up from the back of your fabric and place the ball top needle in the fabric and wrap your thread around the top. Going back down to create a triangle. Come back up through the middle and place your thread behind the ball again. Start to weave your thread through your 3 strings, over, under, over one way, and then under, over, under the other way, and repeat this until you've finished. Once you do finish, just pull your thread to the back